Welcome to this visual explainer. Today, we're going to look at language a little bit differently. I want you to think of English grammar not as some giant, boring list of strict rules, but as a builder's toolkit. Think about it. When you speak or write, you're essentially constructing something, right? A thought, an argument, maybe a story. And just like building a real house, if you only show up with a basic hammer and a couple of nails, your structure is going to be pretty simple. So today, we're upgrading your toolkit so you can construct much better, much more sophisticated sentences.
So, let me ask you directly. Are you looking for that ultimate power-up to make your spoken and written English truly shine? Because, you might have the basics down, and you might easily get your point across. But maybe you feel like your sentences are just a bit repetitive. Maybe you want to sound more professional in that big email, or just more articulate in your everyday conversations. If you want to move from simply getting by to true, undeniable fluency, you got to know how to pull out the exact right grammatical tool at the exact right moment.
All right, here is our roadmap for today. First, the bricks, mastering two and enough. Then, the mortar, leveling up your connectors. And finally, the paint, understanding relative clauses. Let's jump in.
Part 1. The bricks, mastering two and enough.
To lay our foundation, let's establish exactly what these terms mean in direct translation for our Spanish speakers, just to bridge that gap to English fluency. Our sources point out that two translates to demasiado, meaning it's more than is necessary, and honestly, it usually carries a kind of negative connotation. It implies excess. On the flip side, enough translates to suficiente, or la cantidad necesaria. It means you have exactly the right amount. Understanding this core difference in intent, that's your absolute first step.
Now, take a look at the contrasting structure here. This is where so many students trip up. We always place to right before an adjective. For example, the bus is too slow. The word to comes first to really emphasize the excess of that slowness. But consider enough. It actually goes immediately after the adjective. The coat isn't long enough. You don't ever say enough long. You say long enough. Getting this structural brick placed correctly is absolutely vital for sounding like a native speaker.
And this brilliantly illustrates how we handle nouns, which is a slightly different game than adjectives. Remember, you have to distinguish between countable and uncountable items. If you literally can't count it individually, like water or air or noise, use too much. There's too much noise here. But if you can count them, like apples, cars, or mistakes, use too many. You make too many mistakes. But here's the best part about enough. It is so much simpler with nouns. You just drop it directly before the noun, whether it's countable or not. Like we didn't have enough players. So just remember, enough goes after an adjective, but before a noun.
Moving right along to Section 2, the mortar. Level up your connectors.
Because here's the thing. You can't just stack bricks on top of each other and expect your house to stand strong in a storm, right? You need mortar. In language, you need connectors to seamlessly bridge your thoughts together. Our sources note that connectors are what allow you to form complex, rhythmic sentences. They're basically the tools that take two short, choppy, super basic thoughts and fuse them into one fluid, mature idea, whether you're just having a casual chat at a coffee shop or writing a formal academic paper.
So the real game changer here is this gamified cheat sheet. Watch how you can intentionally level up your vocabulary. We all know the basic tier, right? And, but, because. They work, sure, but they're pretty basic. Now consider the medium level, swapping out but for however or because for therefore. But if you really want to show off your fluency, step into the upper intermediate and advanced tiers. Instead of also, use moreover. Instead of a basic but, try nevertheless, or the highly advanced nonetheless. Instead of just saying so, try dropping in hence or subsequently.
Let's actually look at this in practice. Take a super basic sentence. I was sick, so I stayed home. It's grammatically correct, absolutely, but it kind of sounds like something a child might write. Now listen to the upgraded version. I was sick, consequently, I stayed home. Wow, right? Swapping out a basic functional connector for an upper intermediate one like consequently instantly elevates the sophistication of your whole sentence. It tells your listener that you have total command over the logical flow of your ideas.
All right, on to our final step, Section 3, the paint. Understanding relative clauses.
Here are the actual rules for adding specific, colorful details to your nouns using relative pronouns. Think of this as your paint. You use who when you're adding information about people. You use which to add details about animals or things. Whose is your go-to tool for showing possession or a relationship. And that, well, that is an incredibly versatile tool you can use for people, animals, or things, but specifically when the information you're adding is absolutely essential to the core meaning of your sentence.
Now notice the visual difference between these two types of clauses here. This is a massive hallmark of written fluency. Take the non-defining clause at the bottom. The farmer, whose name was Fred, sold us potatoes. Notice those commas. Non-defining clauses use commas because they're just adding extra non-essential paint to the house. If you rip out the part between the commas, the farmer sold us potatoes, the sentence still perfectly makes sense. The commas act like little handles, letting you lift that extra information right out. But defining clauses, at the top, have 0 commas because they are structural and essential. The car that I bought is red. If you take out that I bought, you're left with the car is red, and suddenly we have no idea which specific car you're even talking about.
Let's actually see these tools in action with a classic grammar activity from our sources. Underline the relative clause and circle the relative pronoun. In that first sentence, the car that I bought is new. The word that is our relative pronoun, pointing right back to the car. And because there are no commas in sight, we instantly know it's a defining clause. That's essential information. In the second sentence, the teacher, who is very kind, helped me. Who is circled because it refers directly to a person. And notice those commas. That visually signals to us that who is very kind is just some extra, non-defining paint splashed onto the sentence.
Well, we have definitely covered a lot of ground today. You've seen exactly how to and enough evaluate your world, how leveling up your connectors binds your ideas together with real sophistication, and how relative clauses paint your sentences with exact, vivid details. So, I want you to look at your newly equipped toolkit and tell me, which of these tools are you going to actively pull out and use to build your very next sentence? The blueprints are in your hands now. Go build something great.